Hi, so for part one of this discussion board, which is for us to reflect on what our biggest takeaway from this module was, I wanted to start out with the fact that this has been one of my favorite modules out of the course because it specifically touches on communication skills and how that relates to negotiation, but it also touches on relationships and how that affects negotiation as well. Because, for example, like I've noted how a lot of the coursework has been around like negotiation theories or how it seems to be like straightforward or negotiation in organizations and stuff like that. But with these chapters in the video, it really hits home and helps me to apply it to real life situations. Like I've been able to do that in other modules, but I feel like this is focused more on how negotiation works in a day-to-day basis and how truly messy it can get behind the scenes when you factor in, other background factors. For example, how chapter 9 talks a lot about reputation. It just reinforced that people don't just remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel and how you showed up. For example, all those nonverbal cues that you put out, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, can really steer the results of the negotiation process. And I've seen that in my own life, especially in legal stuff, where how people perceive you matters more than what's actually said sometimes. Which is why this module had hit different, because it all just connects, and the relationships and communication skills really does matter more than people realize, no matter what situation it is. For the second question, which is how has nonverbal communication impacted an interaction you've been a part of? So I have a real example for this. Honestly, I've been using kind of like the same negotiation examples throughout the entirety of this class. So there's a situation that ended up in court, but before anything had happened, the body language basically said it all. The other person would stand with their arms crossed. They would stare me down. They were recording me without saying anything. All of these were situations where there was absolutely zero verbal communication, and it was all nonverbal communication. You could just feel the tension, the energy, everything that was there. And once again, this was without a single word being spoken. The body language alone over time made me feel like I was being judged and blamed before anything even started. And that's what chapter 7 was actually talking about. The posture, the eye contact, all of that. Not only chapter 7, but the video as well went very, very, very in depth to the impacts of nonverbal communication. Because it can completely shift how things feel and how things go. Because, sometimes the conflict does not start with yelling. It starts with a look, and I've lived through that. So nonverbal communication absolutely changed how that whole interaction went. And I just know that it could have really taken a whole different route had the nonverbal communication been more reciprocal. For example, I was always sure to be mindful of the nonverbal communication that I'm giving out, and that was not reciprocated. So for the last question, it says, how has language impacted an interaction that you've been a part of? So I've also had moments where what was said made things way worse as well. So for example, in one situation, the other person was using very harsh, very vulgar, very unnecessary language. And it wasn't about solving anything. It was about painting a narrative to, control the narrative and make me look like the bad guy, or make me to be painted out as something I wasn't. In chapter 7, I noted a topic that was talked about as well that I wanted to mention for this question, which was polarized language. Stuff like, you always do this, or you never do that, kind of like the black and white language. It makes it sound like there's absolutely no middle ground. There's no chance to fix anything. And that's exactly what I saw happen in this real life scenario. So on my end in this scenario, I stayed calm, not because I wasn't mad, because I was, but I knew if I matched that energy of the polarized language, the vulgar language, the kind of language that paints it out as though there's no kind of integrative resolution here or no chance for a positive negotiation process, I just kind of steered away from all of that. I tried to use calm, clear words because I knew that it would all play back. And that's what the chapter was saying, that your words and your tone can either completely build or it can completely destroy the trust. So overall, this module showed me that negotiation isn't always about who's right. Or about, the logistics. It's about how you carry yourself, the kind of energy you put out in the world, and how people remember you when it's over. It's just really important to take this information into context when starting your negotiation processes. Not only the communication skills and the polarized language and nonverbal communication skills, but also the relationship you have with that person, and how that's going to play out into the future. Thank you.